Hello. Wait for some people to get in here, you know. Mhm. Just wait for some people. Hope everybody's doing good. 7 p.m. Time just changed. Wait for some people to join. Hello. Let's wait for some more people to join. Thank you for joining us. Digging in with Dr. P. It's Friday. I mean Monday, 7 p.m. The time's just changed back. Talking about that, to start our first subject, I guess, there's legislation that might get rid of daylight savings time. Well, it'll keep daylight savings on forever. So that could be interesting. This will be the last time the clocks ever change if it passes. I believe it passed the Senate and it's in the House right now. So I believe the as daylight savings time could be going away as the time disappears, or as the bill to get rid of it is being debated. It'd be the last time that you see daylight savings time. But anyways, on to some bigger issues. I hope you guys have all heard about the bank in California. The Silicon Valley Bank was closing, and that means a lot of bad things for the government. There's a bunch of investigation and stuff. It's pretty recent, so not everyone's really sure what happened. Only a lot of companies and a lot of people lost like millions of dollars, but the Biden administration is saying that they'll get all their money back, even though the U.S. government only insures up to 250,000 of it through the FDIC. So the FDIC is basically like an entity made to insure your money, and so that you don't like panic whenever a bank closes like this. Um, yeah, so it's pretty recent. It's pretty bad for the economy. Sorry. But it's pretty bad for the economy. The FDIC, as I said, um it protects about $250,000, even though some companies lost over like 5 million and a lot more. So that's not really the best. It can it's coming at a time, post COVID recovery, and we're in like a weird economic state where we have a booming economy but also high employment or unemployment. So this kind of this was the biggest bank failure since the 2008 recession, which was caused by the banks. And in 2008, what happened was, like most recessions, like the Great Depression and the Great Recession in 2008, they're caused by like faulty loans given out by banks, and then the people can't pay them back, and so the banks, fail, and then that just kind of brings the whole economy down, as the banks are the backbone. So the Federal Reserve, you got to kind of have to know what the Federal Reserve is too. The Federal Reserve is kind of like the intermediary between like the government and the banks. The Federal Reserve is actually made up of like a bunch of like smaller, like kind of government banks to say. And so they kind of like regulate the banks in their district, like the different feds across the US. So the Federal Reserve is trying to stabilize the situation and apply. I know you guys probably heard a bunch about how the Federal Reserve was changing, or like was like adjusting in interest rates to combat inflation. So that's just one of the powers they have to regulate the economy. But yeah, the Silicon Bank Valley or Silicon Bank crash was pretty unexpected. Not a lot of people really expected it, and so a lot of people are uncertain about their money. What this means for you is that you should just always know how you're protected, especially if you have a bunch of assets in like one location or something. So you need to like be sure you're good just if something catastrophic happens. But let's talk about something else. Uh, a professor at the University of Pennsylvania was accused of making racist statements, and there's a bunch of debate about whether or not the professor should be fired, because some are saying that the university is trampling on, like, her right to say whatever and be transparent about the truth or the history, while others are saying that she's being insensitive. Amy Wax was a law professor at the University of Pennsylvania, and then she said during a lecture that on average, blacks have a lower cognitive ability than whites, and that the country is better off with fewer Asians, as long as they tend to vote for Democrats, and that non-Western people feel a tremendous amount of resentment and shame. Uh, so that's a lot of controversy. There's not really much context what she said it is, but she didn't really have any research to back it up, so she's kind of just spreading. She said blacks have lower cognitive ability than whites, so that's pretty racist. Yeah, but it's a like big First Amendment thing at the University of Pennsylvania as they try to determine what to do with her. Anyways, I wanted to talk about the Middle East. So, uh, Iran and Saudi Arabia have recognized each other, have like officially recognized each other as like diplomatic ties. So, uh, these two countries really don't like each other. If you don't know, like Iran and Saudi Arabia, the only people Iran doesn't like more is Israel and the U.S. But it's basically the two types of Islam, clashing. You have the Sunni, the Sunni, the Sunni Saudi Arabia, and then you have the Shia Iran, and they're the two types of Israel have not been getting along for the past couple hundred years, but now a deal brokered by the Chinese has reconciliated reconciled relations. And so, the proxy war that's been going on in the Middle East for a long time could be coming to an end as the two, sides meet together. The only thing that hasn't been mentioned is Israel. However, both sides don't really like Israel, as they're both Muslim countries, and Muslims and Jews have been having beef ever since, or even before the state of Israel was founded. So um that's a whole another issue. But Saudi Arabia and Iran are really big, and the fact that it was broken by, like, the Chinese and not the US really brought US, really sidelined a lot of people at the State Department, and it felt like the US didn't really have a say in international affairs, was losing control of the world. um so yeah, they're normalizing ties, and they're making embassies in each other's countries. And that comes as a change, as Saudi Arabia is considered a big US partner, and biggest arms trades go to Saudi Arabia. So the fact that they're recognizing a American adversary could strain US Saudi Arabian ties. What's the main reason they are fighting for so many years? Is it for land? No, it's Saudi Arabia and Iran. They're not fighting over land per se. They don't even border each other. The reason they fight is because, like, the fundamental difference in, like, Islam, and it really goes back to that, as I said, the Shia Islamic Republic of Iran versus the Shia, I mean the Sunni Saudi Arabia. And so that fundamental, like, change in religion, I'm not exactly sure, the exact differences. I'd have to, research that more. But yeah, that's the reason, the Saudi Arabia has kind of backed Iran or Iraq in the Iraq Iran war in, like, the 80s and stuff. So that is a big thing. But they both dislike Israel. They're both Muslim countries, and Israel's a Jewish country, and they both believe that Israel illegally occupies the West Bank. And so it'll be interesting to see, how this plays with the US, especially if you'll see, some sort of Saudi Arabia kind of drifting towards, the Eastern world and away from the US. And yeah, because it seems that the US has been trying to play both sides of the coin for a long time, and it finally caught up. But we'll see how it goes. There's a whole proxy war in different areas like Hezbollah and Yemen, and it doesn't affect us in the U.S. because we give help. Um, I'm not exactly sure how it would. It wouldn't really affect the average American. However, like it would affect a bunch of different select groups in the U.S. Uh, you know, defense contracting like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, other big military companies. They're gonna lose out on those bids to Saudi Arabia, especially if the U.S. stops doing arms deals with Saudi Arabia. The U.S. is the or Saudi Arabia is the biggest exporter of arms of American weapons, and that's also a lot of controversy, as Saudi Arabia has been funding Yemen in their civil war, and so there's a bunch of American-made missiles and other things, killing Yemenis children and civilians. So that really brought a bunch of pressure to the U.S. as the Yemeni civil war is being fought with American weapons, and so yeah, it will affect Americans indirectly. You may not like feel it like firsthand, but it'll have an effect on your life. Let me go on to the next one. Um, do you think the U.S. have so much problems with gun violence? Yes, the U.S. has a lot of problems with gun violence. There's a lot of problems in the country with gun violence. The U.S. has over 400 million firearms. If you didn't know that, that's more people. The U.S. only has 330 million people, but 400 million firearms. Only 6 million of those firearms are registered, and it's a very heated topic. The U.S. leads the world in like mass shootings. However, though the U.S. leads the world in mass shootings, most firearm related deaths are like to yourself and to like one other person, so it's like a suicide or a homicide. So yeah, the U.S. has a unique problem with gun violence. You don't really see this in many other countries. However, Germany did just have like a shooting at like a synagogue, I believe, which is very tragic. Yeah, killed about 5 people. And however, back to the U.S. gun debate, it's a very polarized third rail issue, and I believe it has to be settled at like the state level. Any like federal laws won't really be sweeping enough. The U.S. did a lot of things to try to fix it in the past. They passed the 1994 crime bill. Bill Clinton did, and in that 94 crime bill, there's a 10-year limit on assault rifle manufacturing. So you couldn't buy a assault rifle from 1994 to 2004. And in 2004, it ran out and they never repealed it because George Bush, a Republican, was in office. And so ever since then, maybe if Al Gore would have won the election, it could have extended 2014 and then so on and so forth. However, I don't see anything like that being passed again, especially, you know, given how polarized the issue has became, like other issues like abortion, immigration. Speaking of immigration, we can move on, talk about what's the opinions on the southern border. Joe Biden is thinking about reinstating detentions, like family detention, I believe. Let me double check that. Sorry. But yeah, they're saying sorry. Yeah, so they're saying that Joe Biden's trying to reconsider reinstating detention of migrant families. And that Title 42, it was a big thing in the past. It Title 42 was like a federal like kind of like statute that allowed the border, U.S. border patrol to detain families for like an unlimited amount of time until they decide like what to do with them, whether to give them a trial or asylum or deport or whatever. However, even though the thing wasn't repealed, Biden stopped. He campaigned on stopping, family detention, and now he's considering reviving the practice. I'm not exactly sure why he would even consider reviving the practice, especially after whatever they said. Even whenever he said he was on platform on that. But yeah, what he has been doing, like whenever illegal families would enter the U.S., he would, give them ankle bracelets or trackable cell phones and let them into the U.S. and just keep an eye on them, kind of surveil them. But now he's thinking they're returning to more stricter measures as they try to. There's a rise of immigration as people are fleeing authoritarian governments. Bad, bunch of push factors in the world kicking people out of their countries. Venezuela has been facing hyperinflation and corruption for the past, couple of years. And so, yeah. May 11th. Oh, thank you, Elise. Child labor. There's a lot of things on migrant children, at the border being exploited. But yeah, that's a lot of the big things. The Ukraine has been at war for the past year and some change, and they have had a grain deal. They're kind of like willing to give food or let food enter Ukraine, however, but only for the next 60 days. The war is taking a lot longer than Russia expected. The Russian leader Vladimir Putin, he's been rumored to not be in good health and becoming increasingly paranoid. He has threatened to use nuclear weapons on the West if the West tries to get involved. Even though the West is very involved, I believe, Ukraine has a bunch of Western NATO weapons, and yeah, so it's very kind of could be bad. But it's been more Ukrainian soldiers or more Russian soldiers have been dying in the conflict than Ukrainian soldiers. So it's a lot more. Oh, hello. Yep. Thank you. But yeah, Russia. Biden just sold some nuclear powered submarines to Australia and Britain. So Australia and Britain are some of the U.S.'s closest allies, as well as with Canada and New Zealand. Those five countries, the U.S., UK, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia, they make up the Five Eyes alliance, and it's more of a in like intelligence sharing alliance. However, those five countries, that's much of the Anglo, like English speaking world. So those five countries are very close, all liberal democracies, and yeah, Biden just made a deal with Australia and Britain to give them nuclear powered submarines. And nuclear powered submarines are probably some of the most dangerous weapons ever. As not sure if you know, but nuclear powered submarines can stay underwater in enemy seas for up to 6 months and then rise up in an instant and launch a nuclear missile. So they're very hard to detect. very stealthy. There could be some right off of the coast you live in right now. So just always be aware of that. Yeah, March Madness is starting. Hope you guys made your brackets. I think Kansas. I got Kansas at number one. I believe they're gonna win it all. Oh yeah. Um, yeah, March Madness. I think Kansas gonna win it all. I think Kennesaw State is gonna have a deep run. They've been very good this year. I have Duke upsetting Purdue in the East. I have a bunch of other stuff. I have Houston going deep to number one. I have a bunch of schools. I have Arizona beating Princeton. I think Princeton's getting put out the first round. I think that I'm not sure. I'm surprised that UNC isn't in the tournament. They always somewhere in the tournament. And Villanova, I believe Villanova's not even in the tournament. I think Penn State's gonna do good. I want to see some Cinderella teams though. It'd be really cool if we could see a 16 seed upset, but it probably won't happen. But yeah, I believe I saw something earlier that the number one seed has won the tournament it was a big percent, like 60% of the time. And the last number one seed to win was in like 2018. I forgot what school it was. But yeah. So um hopefully you guys fill out your brackets. The Oscars are sometime. Oh, they already happened, I believe. Who will you believe? Who you believe will be the winner on or top two in the March Madness? I have Kansas against. Not exactly sure. Here I can look. I have Kansas versus Missouri, and I have Missouri beating USC, and I have Kansas beating Houston. So I think the final four will be Missouri, USC, Houston, Kansas. I think USC will have a deep run, even though they're 10th seeded. They're in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is a very strong conference, and USC has a relatively easier thing that they play Michigan State and they play Marquette. I believe they can beat Marquette. The hardest game would probably be. Oh, they have two hard games. They'd have to potentially play Kentucky or Duke. And I think Duke's gonna beat Oral Roberts, definitely. I believe Duke can beat Tennessee. I have Duke upsetting Purdue, and I have USC upsetting Duke. So we'll see. I have UCLA beating Northwestern. It's a bunch of schools. Yeah, the football team did win the Super Bowl. Yeah. But yeah, I believe Kansas will have it. It's a solid school. Mm-hmm. Well, I hope you guys had a good time listening to me, Dr. Power. Follow Change for Hope on as a rising college student, do you have any lessons learned or advice for high schoolers following in your shoes? Just do what you love and do it good. Yeah. Uh, Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a good night. Follow Change for Hope on Facebook. Bye.